Hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of Wine and Chisme, where we pour the wine, or at least I always pour the wine. My guest, it depends, but we always come with the chisme. And today I have my guest, Perla Lozano. Hola, Perla. ¿Cómo estás hoy?
Hi, how are you?
I am well. Well, I'm cold. Obviously, I'm wearing my sweatshirt is cold. You are actually not too far. I should have had you meet me in Orange County. You're in Orange County. I'm in San Diego, but we have been having the weather and
Yes.
it is cold.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the California kind of scare right now, right? It's the rain we
Yeah.
can't handle. And so it's like, oh, a little bit of it. And then the thunderstorms the other night. Holy
Oh
moly.
my gosh. I'm super excited to have you because we're going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like girls in sports. And that makes me so excited because I was a girl in sports. I was a young woman in sports. I lovingly call myself a sports chick. I've worked in sports. I have,
Oh,
a former coworker. We still keep in touch like through LinkedIn, but who is now like in charge of all of the marketing for the World Cup for FIFA. So I have friends. One of my very good friends is actually one of the anchors for CBS Sport. Like, girl, this
love
is
it.
like when I say this is
Love
near
it.
and dear to my heart, it truly, truly is. But before we get into all that, uh, and before we get into our wine, I'm gonna share your bio so people have like a little bit of info on you. So
Sure.
Perla lives at the
Sure.
intersection, yes, girl, of ambition and service. She's a marketing executive by trade and a community builder by heart. By day, she helps companies grow through smart, data driven strategy and brand leadership. And by night and weekends, she proudly serves as a volunteer leader in youth sports, creating spaces where kids and adults around them can thrive. She cares deeply about leadership, representation, raising the next generation, and redefining what success looks like for Latin women who want it all: career, impact, and most importantly, joy. Her forever goal is to build a life that blends success, purpose, and a little chisme along the way. Girl, that means you are here, you are in the right space.
Dios
And I'm
mío,
so
my
excited.
God. That's fun.
I I love reading people like, sometimes people read the bios or talk about it before the guest is on. And I love to do it with my guest because I think there's something about hearing your bio when somebody else is reading it. There's just something about that. And I think when somebody else is reading it in a lovingly way, which I always try and do, right? It also kind of reiterates, oh shit, I'm that, I am that. Like, damn, somebody else is
Yeah, I'm like,
reading it.
what is she talking about over here? Like,
I'm talking about you.
yeah, no, you're right. It definitely kind of cements it for sure, listening to it. That was really nice. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, I love that's why I love doing it. It makes me excited to see people's look on their face. I've had so many people say, I've never had somebody read that to me before. And that's why I love to do it because there's just something about when somebody else reads it. Like you said, you're looking behind you and you're like, who's she talking about? Oh,
Who's she
that's
talking? You got the wrong one.
no, not the wrong one. But before we get into the
Yeah.
cheese, may we always share. I know you poured yourself a glass, so
Step
share what
one.
you. Yeah, step one. We were having technical difficulties before, but we forgot she needed to lubricate a little before. So what do you have in your glass today, Perla?
So today I have the Juggernaut, a Marlboro from New Zealand. So it's a Sauv Blanc 2024. Let's see. I'm not a huge New Zealand fan, but it's a white and
Same.
it's kind of, daytime. I enjoy my whites during the day. So yeah.
Yes.
Usually I
No,
reserve my reds for a heavy meal.
Well, I agree with you, Nor. Like, I'm not a big New Zealand fan either when it comes to Sauv Blancs because I'm not a big, I don't like grapefruit. And
Yeah,
Sauv Blancs from New Zealand
absolutely.
are very grapefruit forward. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not a big fan. But if you're somebody who likes grapefruit and likes that, like, go
Perfect.
for it. I would never discourage anybody from it. But for me, like, that's always the first thing I taste. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've tried all grapefruits too. And I've even tried it with, I don't like grapefruit.
Yeah. No, I
It is
agree.
what
I
it
don't
is.
like it either. And I keep trying them because I'm like, well, there's a market for it. Why? 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 But I mean,
It's
I'll,
very,
I'll keep trying.
that's when no, well, that's the thing with wine. And one of the things I love about wine is very personal, it's very subjective.
Right.
So like there could be wines that I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite, and somebody else might be like, girl, you are out of your mind. I do not like, but it's, but that's the thing that I always like to share is it's okay. Like the best wine is the wine that you like. That's
Right.
what it comes down to. I don't have
Yep.
to like it. I've had people apologize for the wines I'm like, what? You like it, right? That why does it matter? Like you don't need my approval.
Right.
So I am having today so this is Cremosi Vineyards. This is actually out of Oregon, out of the Willamette
Oh,
Valley in Dundee Hills in Oregon. This is Cremosi Vineyards. It is a Latina-owned vineyard, and this is their Pinot Noir because I am recording another episode this afternoon. So I was gonna get a cab because it's cold and I can on a cold day I could do something a little bit heavier, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't grab a cab because I might be like a little bit too lubricated. So this is their Pinot Noir, and
nice.
that area of the Willamette Valley and of Oregon, they're actually known for their Pinot Noirs. And Sophia, the owner, I had the opportunity. I was in Oregon last June for my nephew's graduation. And so I got to visit them, and she has such a lovely story. So I got to sit down with her. I took my sister with me.
Oh, fun.
We did a podcast interview that came out in, I think, September of
Oh,
2025. So if anybody wants to go
yeah.
back and check that out, please do so. Sophia's awesome. She has a really amazing story and beautiful wine. So, salud, Perla.
Love it. Salud.
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 This is such a good wine. It's so soft and it's just,
Yeah, I'm gonna
I
have to
love
check
it.
it out.
Yes. And I love my Latina-owned wine brand. So,
Mm-hmm.
girl, I'm so excited. Like I said, I should have I should have said, "Hey, let's go meet at one of the other wineries." In Orange, I could have called Chris at Sei Solis. We could have met at his tasting
Yes.
room.
Oh, that would have been
Totally.
fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll have to meet there. I love Chris is awesome.
He
He
is.
is actually he was the very first Latino-owned wine brand we had on the podcast. So we've kind of
Oh, for
I
sure.
he provided the wine for my wedding. We're like, he's kind of like
Oh,
we have like brother sister, and we've kind of like started our journeys at the same time. So he is somebody that I will always advocate for. I will always support. I will always shout out because he's freaking awesome. So
he's
yay.
been doing good. I've seen him around town, and I have a book club that I'm a part of here in Orange, and we've gone there to do their wine and wax kind of little event that they host. It's
Yeah.
super fun. Super fun.
Yeah. And he's worked so hard. I mean, girl, like from when
I believe it.
he started in Lodi and coming down and move. I mean, he took a big chance of moving down here and opening his tasting room. So if anybody is in the I'm saying Southern California, or you don't, if you're here to bring your family or you come to Disneyland, make a
Right.
stop in downtown Orange. It's called Wine and
Mm-hmm.
Wax. Sei Solis, Chris Rivera is the owner. Like it's awesome. So, but let's get into your our chisme, girl, because it's so exciting. I want to know, like, first of all, did you grow up in Orange County? Are you from the Orange area? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in downtown Santa Ana. So,
Oh, okay.
yep. So I'm born and raised in downtown Santa Ana. Grew up in the 90s there. I mean, just, I went to Saddleback High School. Did all the things, and so it was a good time to grow up in that area for sure.
Yes. Well, so just an extra little plug for anybody that lives in Santana or Santa Ana. Um, my friend is actually running for city council in that area.
Oh,
So,
fun.
yes, I'll send you the info and everything. We're Hope Sisters together. And, anything I can do to
Yeah.
promote what, in regards to everything that's happening. Her name is Isuri Ramos. So,
Okay.
check her out. And
Yeah,
she's awesome.
definitely.
She's a beautiful person. Super excited for her.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
uh, I love so I were you somebody because obviously growing up in that area, even then, now, and I'm sure there's some changes in everything, but that is a very like Latina area. Growing up there, even now, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure some things are changing just because of what's happening generally.
Right.
But um, that's an area I think that I would imagine, and please share that you were uh, surrounded by your community constantly, whether it's the people you went to school with, it's the taquerias down the street, it's the grocery store. So knowing that, right? How do you think that I'm sure you maybe have never thought of it or maybe didn't think of it until you were older, but being surrounded by that, how do you think that impacted you growing up in regards to how you saw yourself and how you saw our community at large?
Yeah. Um, well, so I always, whenever I kind of go down memory lane with people, I go back and I think about my upbringing and my community around me. And like you said, it's our gente, right? It's our people. But when I think about it, my name, I tell everybody I grew up in little Latin America, right? Because my neighbor
Okay.
was Cuban. My other neighbor was from Venezuela. We're half Costa Rican, half Mexican, right? So there were although it was all, our Latin American family, it was still everybody had a little bit to contribute. So that was very enriching, I think, for me growing up, right? And then once I kind of grew out of Santa Ana, in essence, where we all go to college, right? We're gonna, what's the next step? Well, we're gonna go to college, right? And
Where did you go to college?
girl, so my first, don't
I
ask
saw
me
that
why.
look. I saw that look.
So my first year out of high school, I decided to go to the University of Anchorage, Alaska. And so I know,
What?
I told you, I warned you. So that, I think was huge for me, obviously, because when I went out there, I didn't really understand the impact of my community until I was outside of that. And I went to Alaska. There were no people like me, right?
Yeah.
And so that was massive for me. I had massive culture shock. It was interesting to kind of learn more about myself outside of my comfort zone. Um, and I think it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, to be honest. I came right back because it was cold. I came right back. I think I was only
Wait,
there for one
especially
school
growing
year.
up in Southern California, you out of all places, you go to Anchorage, Alaska, and you're like, wait,
I know
it's cold here.
it is. I know. And I remember just missing like the food, the people, the music, and like just, it was just that culture shock, you know? So beyond that, it was cool to see the snow, right? Because we're in downtown Santa Ana, we don't see the snow. You know
You
what I
can
mean?
see it
Like
on the
we just,
tops of the mountains.
yeah, we
From
just see it on the tops, and you know, every once in a while, mom and dad are like, "Yeah, let's go," but oof, that was like rare, right?
Yeah.
So, so it was a cool experience, and then it was really what kind of opened my eyes to what my community one is, how it impacts me, how it impacts everybody else, and where we stand in kind of this big, you know, melting pot, I guess you could say, right? So it was, I guess, I don't know if I did I answer your question or did I just went around
Yeah,
in
yeah. No,
circles?
well, the other question I had stemming from that is, did when you're in Anchorage, Alaska, did people ever mistake you for indigenous to the area?
Yeah.
Because I would obviously there are a lot of people that are indigenous Alaskans, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I was just wondering if like were people surprised when you're like, no, I'm from California, I'm actually Costa Rican and Mexican, or what was that? What was the response? What was the response of people to you when you were in during that time?
Yeah. I was just as strange to them as the snow was to me, right? And so they were very much like, whoa, like didn't know how to, they would ask all the questions, which was great, right? But it was very much like, I'm not, it a little, for a little bit, it made me feel like I was in a fishbowl a little bit where they were just kind of like asking me everything and just like, you know, poking at the, you know, and it's
Right.
like, I'm a normal person, guys, you know, I think it was, Anchorage is a big military has a big military base. So there was people that would be a lot of the people there are like from Hawaii or and so there was this kind of thought, oh, are you military or are you and it's no, I chose to come good. So it was one of those that they're like, well, why are you here? Um, and it was foreign to them that someone from warmer weather would go up there to experience life where they are just longing to come down here, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was interesting. They would say all the things, not mean or anything. It was more like, oh, you're exotic looking, and it's like, ooh, that's interesting. Like no one's ever told me that, but I understand where they were coming from, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm sure I mean, I've heard so many people say culture shock when they've grown up in areas that are very like, you know, it's, La Raza in the area and our gente in the area. And then all of a sudden they're going, I think that's such a big thing for a lot of people when they go to college, especially out of their area. They're like,
Right.
oh, wow, I've not experienced this before. I've never felt this way before. And oh my gosh, there's all these people. Yes, I knew that there were all these people, but, I think so often when you're growing up in an area that is, like you say, you're like, Cubans, Mexicans, Costa Ricans, border, like all that. And then you go into this area where from the neighborhood, you are the majority to becoming the minority. There are different questions
Right.
that you've never really had to answer, or there's different perspectives that you've never heard before because you've kind of, like you said, you're in your little safe bubble, and then you go outside of
Right.
that. So I've heard that a lot, over the
Mhm.
years. What would you say when you were there? Because I just think I find that so fascinating that you're in Alaska. That's so crazy to me. Obviously, you came down because you're in the cold. So was there something that helped you grow during that year? Because you can grow a lot within a year, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot can happen within a year. So what would you say like your biggest peak and your lowest valley was during that time when you were in Alaska?
I think, well, as far as peak goes, it was, believe it or not, almost embracing more of my Latin side. And it was more of like, you know, because I think growing up here, I went to my elementary school that I went to. I didn't speak a word of English when I started kindergarten, and it was predominantly white. The elementary school that I went to, and I remember showing up, day one, and it was like, like I had a broken arm. I was, I didn't know what to do or say. I had to go to the bathroom. And I remember there was a little girl, her name was Daisy. And I remember her telling the teacher, and she was Hispanic, telling the teacher, she needs to go to the bathroom. And I remember looking at her like, oh my gosh, you know how to speak English?
You're my friend.
Right? Like, I want to be like you. And so there was always this, like, ever since then, there was always this drive to kind of like, I have to meet whatever it is to be accepted in this community, right? And then, fast forward, to like a couple years down the road, one of my teachers comes up and just immediately is like, Perla, you speak English. And I'm just looking at her like, duh, you know what I mean? Like, but it didn't really click to me that yeah, I had assimilated, right? And it was a transition, right? So now, pushing that to kind of Alaska, it was, my peak there was really where, I was able to actually now turn back and embrace more of my culture. But I also felt like I was really trying to fit into this other group as well, because of,
Right.
all of the demands that, it is to get ahead. Right. And so, I think that would be what I consider my high in Alaska. And then I think the low, there were lows, because you're out there and it's lonely and you're by yourself, right? You're the little oveja negra, right? You're just out there just by yourself, and not very many people speak your language, right? I will say my sister was out there, but she was her senior year. She was busy doing her thing, right? And she's also in college, living her college life, right? And so it was I had a lot of lonely moments, and I would call home, missing home, call my mom, missing mom, ask my mom to, like, can she ship me some carnitas from El Toro? Like, can you know what I mean? Like, can you
Yes.
do those things for me? Send me something, So I think those would be the lows that I would describe from being out there. And I think probably what made me come back was feeling like, yeah, I need to come back. My place is here. So will
Yeah.
I go back and visit? Absolutely. Will I take my kids? Absolutely. Yes, 1,000%.
Yes. I've always wanted, I think that's something that so many of us are fascinated with is Alaska, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just, it's so, knowing it's so different, and knowing um that there's so much out there, right?
Yeah.
I would love to take a trip to Alaska. That's why those Alaskan cruises are so popular and everything.
Yes.
So, but going back to the intention, right? Growing up,
Yeah.
were you somebody who was into sports? Were you somebody who that was part of you growing up, like of whether it was playing soccer, baseball, softball, like what was like your introduction into sports?
Yeah. So I'm one of 5 children. I have 3 older sisters and a younger brother. And my older sisters, each of them were in sports. I think one was doing volleyball, one was doing basketball, one was doing, softball. And then it was Perla's turn. What is Perla going to do? Right. And it was, well, I'm not going to do what they do. I'm going to do my own thing. Right. And so I chose soccer. Now, did we watch soccer at home? My dad would turn it on every once in a while in the background and whatnot, but it wasn't that we were a massive soccer family.
People
But
might be like, what?
I know. Well, I mean, Costa Rica hasn't had the best record in soccer, but yeah, so it's definitely it was in the background and just, it was part of just regular, life. And I went to Saddleback High School, and that was where I started playing soccer. And so I
Oh, you
started
didn't start till late.
I didn't start until late. Yeah. Because it was my parent, I mean, it's something that I see and I empathize with very much even to this day, right? Is that there are lots of families who they work two jobs. Mom and dad works two jobs. They can't take their kids to practice. They
Yeah.
can't, do
And
these
all of
things.
those
So,
sports are expensive, like the
correct. They
equipment,
can be. Hmm.
the equipment, the travel, if you have to travel, right? If you're
Right.
in fee, if you're in leagues before high school, the league fee, I mean, all of that adds
Right.
up. And to have 5 kids, like that's a
Right.
lot.
Yeah, and to truck them along everywhere, it was a lot for my family to do. If it didn't happen at school during your school time, then, we didn't have that, right? We would come home, ride our bikes, rollerblade. We would play, some baseball with the local kids across the street in the parking lot, but that was it. We didn't have much of the ability to go and do stuff like that. So that's why in high school, I could do it during high school, during class, right? During the school hours. So that allowed me to kind of have that. I did try out for the dance team. No, I didn't make it. I tried out for all these little things. And I think athletics is what really kind of worked for me. I liked running. That caught my coach's eye and kind of said, hey, do you want to try out for the soccer team? And I didn't even think about doing it until he had said that. And that was when I tried out. So, and I made the team and had been playing, ever since. I even played, a little bit in Alaska. I played on some rec team that they had out there for a little bit. And then I came back and I just kind of started my career. But yeah, so
So
that
how
was
long
kind
did you
of,
play? Did you only, I mean, that's honestly like such a big thing. I think it's changed a lot since, right? If you're not already playing like rec or club and so much is going into like club sports and everything, and there's a whole conversation around that and what's happening with that, and we can definitely get into that. But I think now versus then, you could still, if you never played, but maybe they saw something, like maybe I played softball and I was a cheerleader. I call myself a girly tomboy. I still feel that way, right? Because
I love
I
that.
was a catcher in softball. I played catcher and third
Oh,
base,
yeah. Yeah.
and then I was a cheerleader. So I was like very different things, right? Um, but I think like there was still an opportunity. I feel like those opportunities for a kid to be like, oh, wait, I want to try for this, if they haven't grown up with it, it's virtually non-existent anymore to be able to make a high school team. Or some kids are just completely foregoing high school and going just straight to just playing club sports year round, which is crazy. When you decided to get to play soccer, outside of the sport itself, because the sport
Mm,
itself obviously teaches you things, but
yeah.
off the field, what do you think the number one, or maybe the couple of things that made the most impact on you off of the field?
That soccer made an impact off the field for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was that confidence level. I want to say, playing on the field really pushed my body to its limits. And when I was able to accomplish that off the field, it was kind of like, yeah, I did that. I scored. All the things, right? And so it taught me what my body can do, what my body's capable of doing. And so in that, right? Yeah, I walked a little taller. I walked a little bit more straighter. I definitely was like, okay, I tackled that. I can now go and be, editor in chief of the yearbook, right? I can now try and do all these other things, right? And those are kind of like, it led me to at least try, because soccer was not something that was planned. It wasn't something that I was always wanting to do, but it was definitely someone noticed something that I didn't notice in myself. And then that opened that opportunity for me to at least try something new. And it was definitely funny. It was because I would come home, and when I told my dad, my mom was I think very busy. God bless her, but she was very, very busy momming, wifing, working, all the things, right? And I remember telling my dad, and my dad was like a little bit in shock, like, you playing soccer, like it was. You know,
Were you not
thanks,
very
Dad.
like how were you as a child? Were you like a clumsy kid? Were you like were you just showed zero interest, or what was like that made him go, "Really? You're going to play
Yeah,
soccer?"
I think I was very girly. I was definitely daddy's girl. I was his youngest girl, and so, he'd already gone through the trials of, of my older sisters, and now it's me, and so we always carry that joke around with my sisters, but it is that I think he saw
They
me
broke him
just.
in for you.
I know, right? But yeah, so
As the oldest daughter of three girls, I get it.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah. Because your experience, and that's what I tell my sisters too, everybody's experience growing up is so different
Yeah.
from
My
their
young my
siblings.
youngest sister is the daddy's girl too. I think there's something with the youngest sibling,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that they
yeah,
get very close to the dad. I don't know if that's for everybody, but I've seen that a lot. But yeah, no, I get it. I get where your
yeah,
sisters come from.
yeah. So, but yeah, so that's kind of, I think what off the field would be for me is it kind of gave me that boost of confidence to try for more things, and now maybe try on the intellectual side of things, right? Like, now let's try for that. We've quote unquote in high school, right? Like, the couple
Right.
years of soccer, we've mastered our bodies. Now let's try, our brains. And so that was kind of where, it was helpful in that sense for sure.
I need to burp. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I was like,
You're
oh,
good.
it was a big one too. I was like, let me put myself on mute. That's gonna edit it out.
Yeah, you're good. We need to have seen each other in person. My
We
gosh.
do. Oh my
That is
gosh.
too funny.
Yes, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna meet in person. We're gonna have a good time. Wine break. Time to refill that glass and come back for more wine and chisme. Ever wonder where you can find the wines I drink that are made by people who actually look like us? Mi gente, I got you covered because I created the first and most comprehensive director of Latina-owned wine brands based in the United States. And yes, it is exactly as good as it sounds. From California to Puerto Rico and everything in between, I mean, we are talking about over 100 Latina-owned wine brands, all in one place, ready for you to discover, sip, and support. This is the directory that I wish existed before I built it. So you never have to search far to find wines that represent our cultura, our gente, and our stories. So head over to the wineandchismepodcast.com to explore the full directory. The link is also in the show notes of every episode, so you have zero excuses not to check it out. And when you're on the field, like, I think one of the most important things, as somebody, like I said, who's played sports, who loves sports, I think one of the biggest things that sports teaches you, right? Especially, so I don't know, and I think there was actually I think it was a Dove commercial during the Super Bowl where they're talking, and maybe it was prior to this, where they're talking about by certain ages when a girl stops doing certain
Yes.
things, right? Um,
Yes.
and how important it is. or I think it's really important. Obviously, you need to listen as a parent. I've never raised kids, but but I still think that it still holds true, right? In regards to as a parent or guardian, wherever it is, yes, you need to listen to your kids if it's not fun anymore or anything like that. However, I think there's
Mhm.
also responsibility to let those kids know, like, you cannot, when it comes to when you are playing sports, not only does it, like you said, give you confidence, but it teaches you how to work with other people. It
Right.
teaches you how to manage your time, because you have to manage
Right.
not only your playtime, but you have to manage your time off the field in order to get things done. It makes you
Mhm.
stronger and healthier. And as we grow, I think it's so difficult to, with all of the media that young girls are exposed, and us as women are exposed to, right? Like,
Mhm.
girl, I remember there was a time where people, because I do have naturally curly eyelashes. I've not ever used an eyelash curler in my entire life. I've had,
Oh,
like, my lashes are long. They're not super long, but they're long. And I have, these are my natural lips. Like, I've not had any sort of plastic surgery, right? Not to say that I wouldn't ever, but I haven't as of yet. I'm
yeah.
48. I haven't as of yet. But I think there was a time when all of these things were going on social media that I was even questioning, well, do I need to get lip filler? Do I need to go get and if you do that, that's fine. But it, like, all of these things where I felt I was always okay with, that I felt like I was naturally blessed with, all of a sudden I felt like, was it enough? So imagine these little girls, all of the images, and with social media and this whole, like, tweens going to Sephora, right? The Sephora,
Right.
what do you like when you're doing your work, or when you're talking to parents, or when you're, what are the things that you're really, or when you're even talking to girls, what are the things that like, what kind of things are you getting? Do you get pushback, or what kind of things are you challenging them to see in a different light, so that they're not allowing these external factors to affect their decision to continue in sports or not?
So, and your question is, what am I telling the parents, and or what am I telling the kids?
Yeah. Sorry, that was a long way of asking that short question.
No, you're fine. Um, when it comes to, so I do get obviously a good mix of conversations between the kids and the parents, when it comes to soccer and sports and stuff like that. When it comes to the kids, there's instances where the kids do have, you see there's a difference. There's the kids who have cell phones, the kids who don't have cell phones, right? And then it's like, okay, like, hey, Coach Perla, can you want to join me on my Snapchat? Well, nope, nope, no, 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 that's inappropriate. Not, no. But I would just be careful about what you're doing on social media. I think social media is right now, I think it's going through a little bit of a change, right? Where there's legislation being put out there, in France. I think Australia just did it, right? Where they're limiting, access to social media to children, because they're seeing the one addiction, effects of that, and then they're also seeing obviously the impact that it has on their self-esteem, and self-doubting, right? You were talking about how, yeah, you don't have any, you're a beautiful person as it is right now. Why should you doubt whether you should get filler or not? No shade to anybody who chooses to do that on their own. But I think, the persuasion and all of that is very, very dangerous. I, as far as it comes to my kids, we like to, teasingly and lovingly, we say we are outdoor kids, we're not indoor kids, and we are not tablet kids. We are, playing with our soccer ball, our whatever. And we've talked to our kids in the past where if you don't want to do soccer, that's okay, but you got to do something physical, because it just trains your body. It's a good habit to just stay physically fit. um And so my kids, I have them in karate, I have them in soccer, and then I have them, working the other side of the brain too, doing piano, doing Spanish classes and all the things. But I think it's super important, for the kids at the very least, it's to get them to understand the power that their body has and that their body can do. Sometimes our brain talks to our body and says, no, you can't do that. That's too scary. And it's like, but our body can do it. Our body can do it. It's okay. As long as you're in a safe space, you can try it, right? You can try that bicycle kick. I don't recommend it. That's illegal. I mean, so AYSO kids don't do it. That is not good. But you know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that we try to encourage our kids to kind of learn about the limitations of their bodies, but also how push the limitations of their bodies. With parents, I have a mix of parents who, their kid, they say, oh, well, my kid just doesn't stop, just likes to kick the ball on the wall and just doesn't stop. And it's like, don't stop them. Let them do it. What would you rather them do? Right? I mean, is it playing? I don't even know what the new games are. Candy Crush? I don't know. Is it doing
I
that?
do play Candy Crush.
Okay. I'm like, do you rather that? Or, I mean, as long as their studies and their schooling and everything's fine, there's nothing wrong with, them enjoying a sport as much as they do. Then there's kids who just, oh, my kid just doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to do it. And it's like, okay, well, that is 1,000% always completely your choice, how you want to handle it. I can share my experiences where I tell my kids, my son is very different from my daughter. And my son isn't necessarily like all gung ho about soccer. My daughter is. But if my son committed to being a part of a team, then that team is depending on him. And so therefore you cannot drop the team. You have to see it all the way to the end of the season, which is 10 weeks, whatever it is. And then if you choose to not do it, let's talk about it at the end of the season. Because right now, it's the beginning of the season. You've been off for a month and a half. You're like breathing hard. And then you haven't made all the friends that you normally make by the end of the season. And you're like, I want to do it again. Right.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I usually tell parents, I would ask that you wait until the end of the season. Let's see how it goes. But of course, no pressure. You know what I mean? It's the parents always have the ultimate decision.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And my parents were the same way. Like if you're making a commitment, you need to make the commitment for the full season. There's no quitting in the middle.
Right.
People are depending on you, right? You're committing to yourself as well as the team. And at the end of the season, if you decide then that you don't want to do it anymore, then that's fine. But you can't quit in the middle.
No.
And I think that's such a valuable lesson that learned, like, I just love, because sports is more about just the physical thing. Obviously it's a physical
Right.
thing,
Sure.
but there's so much that you learn, like we were talking about with when it comes to teamwork, commitment, how to work with others, when to share, because something like, you know, you can make the play yourself or you can share like what's going to be best for the team. It's not always about you, right? And obviously
Right.
there's some sports that are very individual, but ultimately you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your school or your team.
Right.
And how does that trickle down? So I think there's just so much valuable things that you get from sports. And I like what you said when it comes to how you see the difference of kids who have phones and who don't, because I don't even know like what kid doesn't have a phone anymore. Obviously, when we were growing up, that wasn't even an option. Like phone,
Yeah.
what you talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
and I am grateful for that. So
Yes.
hard, so
Yes.
unbelievably hard.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I would love to know where, obviously, you didn't start sports until high school, But where did this true passion of really making sure like parents and kids knew the benefits of the impact of sports and what it does, and the powerful role that youth, like you specifically say, the powerful role that youth sports play in shaping confidence, identity, like where where did that come from, especially as somebody who didn't start sports until, and I know it sounds really weird to some people that you're starting really late as a freshman, but that really is like, I started late playing softball and I started playing in the 5th grade, and that was late,
Yeah.
right? So where did that come from of somebody who, you weren't really interested in sports and okay, I'm going to start in high school. Like it's not something that you had this passion for growing up. It was started in high school.
The passion for
For just doing
understanding.
what you're doing, like just being like
Mhm.
an advocate for youth sports. Where did that come from?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a mix where I feel like I've always been passionate about being one of the younger of the sisters, right? It's like, I have to like, crawl my way up to, I have to beat, Gina and Martha and Allison. Like I have to beat everybody, right? And it was just, I don't know, maybe it is just a me thing. I know my dad was a very ambitious person as well, very entrepreneurial. So I kind of probably gathered a little bit of all of that, right? And kind of shaped me into who I am. Having the lived experiences that I've had, right, growing up in little Latin America, but then going to a predominantly white school, all of those experiences kind of contribute to my desire to beat the statistic, right? It was, it didn't sit well with me that statistics at that time, right, in the 90s and stuff, were really what defined the Latin American culture or the Hispanos, right? Well, a certain percent of girls, of Hispanic girls, are going to end up pregnant by the time they're out of high school. What? Excuse me? And those were the statistics that were being thrown out and said. And as a young child growing up and hearing those things, it was two paths, right? It was, go into a path of sadness, and that's two paths for me, right? Everybody has a different way of approaching things, but it was resignation and sadness and, oh, that is me. Or it was anger and, no, anything you can do, I can do better, right? And so I think for me, I took this other path, right? And that kind of drove me through everything. And in doing that, it's the research behind it where, why is it that, I ended up playing soccer. I ended up, on the varsity team in high school, having never played soccer before. I ended up doing, all these, why? Like, I don't like, and how can I give that to somebody else, right? What is the formula? There is no formula. I think everything kind of, shapes itself with your experiences. However, when I did some of the research and I looked at youth sports and the impact that it's had on girls alone, because I noticed in the region, in the league that I help run, there's so many boys. And I'm like, why? Like, I love it. I love it. But where are the girls? Where are they? There's so many boys. Where are the girls?
And you help run a soccer league, right?
Correct. I help run Orange AYSO here in the city of Orange. And it is a local nonprofit that serves soccer to all kids here in surrounding cities as well. But in just looking at that, I started kind of doing a little bit more research, and I started understanding how, little stats were coming up, and I think I pulled some up here, but it was like 94% of women in executive leadership played sports. Oh, okay. 80% of girls report increased confidence from playing team sports, right? 69% of women leaders played sports growing up. They learn how to be leaders through sport, right? And so then it kind of puts me in a place where, oh, okay, great. So now how do we use that information, that positive statistic, and influence girls? Because I remember growing up and getting the other statistics. It influenced me in a very typical Latina way, where it fired me up enough to say, no, I reject that. But not everybody is like that. And I think we need more of the positive statistics to encourage the girls to participate, to get out there, to do it, right?
Yeah, I think also on top of that, so I get it, because when you are in sports, a lot of your free time is doing that, right? You're not being like what my mom would say, you're not out being a little callejera, or and getting into trouble. And I even remember there were things that maybe my friends were doing that didn't play sports that I wouldn't do, because I was like, no, because if I get in trouble, I can't play. Like
Yeah.
it gives, like, legit, it gives you like a different mindset, because you're like, no, I can't do that. If I get caught, I'm gonna get in trouble. I won't be able to play. I won't be able to cheer. I won't be, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And again, it gives you that confidence of it gives you self-discipline, because
Right.
whether you're practicing, whether you're playing, whether you're getting physical. And there's so many sports now. Like there's even sports now that were around when we were growing up, right? Or that
Right.
you could actually participate in. But I think that it does help give you self-confidence knowing that I did that, right? Like, oh, I made such a great play. I did this. I did that. Oh my gosh. Like
Right.
whether with like playing softball, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I hit this play. I can't believe I made this play. As a soccer player, same thing. As even as a cheerleader, like, and cheerleaders are freaking athletes. Let me
Yes, they
tell
are.
you, and they're even more athletic now than even when I was a cheerleader, because you have to be strong. You have to
Yeah.
have a lot of agility. You have to have a lot of stamina. Like anybody who berates what cheerleaders do, you do not know what cheerleaders do. You've never seen
No.
cheerleaders are athletes as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I love how, do you see, like, with the rise of women's professional league soccer, right? There's like, obviously you have LA, we have San Diego. There's obviously a rivalry there. We love our wave ladies.
I hear
Um,
ya.
are you seeing an uptick in regards to soccer with women? Because I feel like there has been an uptick over the years with girls playing soccer, from like watching the US winning the World Cup, winning games, in the Olympics. Obviously, now there's a true professional women's soccer league. Are you seeing like the uptick? And now, and I'll ask the other question later. But are you seeing an uptick in girls playing soccer in your area?
So I do. And I can say, from even, so I've been kind of helping with this league. I want to say it's going on to 2 years. It's September. It's going to be kind of the third year or whatever. But since then, I think we've gone up about 25% in the girls. And I think has a lot to do with, the like Angel City, right? It has a lot to do with Wave. It has a lot to do with Alex Morgan. It has a lot to do with representation, right? It has a lot to do with that. I know when I was growing up in the 90s, right? That was when women in soccer I think they won the World Cup in 99 or something like that. And I remember we went as a team to this Girls Inc. It's a foundation for girls.
Yeah.
I went to that. They had a show in Anaheim, and so we went and we met Foudy, and we met we met them all, and we were like, right, like it was amazing. And I think ever since then, right? It's just grown. It's just exponentially grown. And so now it is to the point where as a society, we need to watch more women's sports. We need to watch them, right? Unfortunately, it is a business, right? People, the owners do want to see the ratings go up. They want to see people, coming to the games. They want it. So whenever there's a chance, right, just go and just, support by watching it,
Yeah.
support by going to a game. It's just, that's what's needed. But I think representation had a lot to do with that explosion for sure.
I don't know how. I haven't been to an Angel FC game. I've been to Wave games, and Wave games are almost always sold out here in San Diego.
I love it.
They're so much fun, but also that brings in the pay disparity that women have had to fight so hard for when you're talking about the women's national team versus the men's national team and what they were getting. And the men were not winning and they were making way more money than the women. And that's what people were going out to see, going to see the US women. And the fact that they had to fight so hard makes it that much more important that we do go support these teams, right? Whether
Right.
it's women's soccer, women's basketball. We don't have anything. Obviously, you have the Sparks in LA, but we don't have anything here in San Diego. But I promise you, if there was some woman, me and my husband would be going. Like
Yeah.
I will say this as well. If you have a husband or a brother or a father, like they should want to support your whether you have a son or a daughter, they should be supporting your daughter as much as they would support your son when they're doing these
Right.
things, because
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things that leads little girls to leave sports, because if
Right.
they're not feeling supported and they're being, when they're hitting puberty, we all know puberty fucking sucks. And now that I'm both, menopause sucks as well. It's not fully, but it can suck as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're accounting for all of these things, those words matter. The words coming from the male role models in your children's life
Correct.
matter. And if you are a woman, you really need to be supporting your both your sons and your daughters, but particularly your daughters in regards to if they all of a sudden want to quit, asking questions. What are the
Right.
questions you would suggest asking to make sure that the reason that they're quitting is not because of what they are being told from external factors like, a boy said something or some, in their life versus they're really just not enjoying it anymore. Because we know that girls can be like, no, I'm just not liking it anymore, but that really may not be the reason. So, what are the questions that you would suggest asking or the conversation you would suggest having if you feel like your young daughter or the young person in your life, the young female in your life is saying that they no longer want to play? Because without respecting their choice, but also making sure that it's being made for the right reason.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog just
It's okay, mine are here. Like
jumped in.
sometimes my pit bull will plop his head right here, but he
Oh,
was snoring earlier. I wasn't sure if you could hear him.
no, I couldn't. Um, I think it starts with before your child is starting to kind of take steps back, right? It's making sure, like, before any of that happens, make sure you're able to have open and honest conversations with your kids of how's it going today? How was school? I always, ask my kids, what was the best part of school, right? What was the worst part of school? Or stuff like that, where you just make it a habit to be able to openly talk to each other about, your day. Obviously, everything depends on the child and what age they are and how much information they can really take. That's not an open invitation for us moms to divulge on or vent with our kids of our day. No, it's about them, and it's getting them to feel comfortable enough to share their emotions and feelings, which they don't know sometimes are emotions and feelings, right? They don't know how to handle those. So I think, it's starting by having those conversations early enough that it doesn't make it a weird conversation when, hey mom, I don't want to be part of the team. Oh, okay, cool. That's fine. Tell me why. Tell me more. Tell me who. Tell me, and then, let's talk through the impact of, what it would have, what would it mean for us to remove you from that team? How do you think, it would impact the team, right? And then let's talk through that. And it's always, this commitment conversation that we've had earlier, right? Is we committed to this, and you have those conversations ahead of signing up, right? Ahead of registering. It's, hey, we're going to commit to this. We're going to see it all the way through. And we're just going to do this together, and we're going to have a lot of fun, right? And you just have to maintain that positivity. I think, there's another side of youth sports that, we haven't really touched on here, which is kind of the sideline, right? It's
Yeah. Oh, yes. I was gonna ask about, like, because how many times have we seen videos of parents getting
I
crazy
know,
on the sidelines, right?
I
Going
know,
after coaches, saying
I
terrible
know.
things to other kids, going after the refs or the Blues, or like, it's insane.
Yeah,
How do you maintain that? Like, being somebody who helps run this soccer league in Orange, like, how do you help? Like, what do you do? How do you help navigate that? Because some parents are fucking crazy. I'm just gonna say, I'm not even
yeah.
gonna say cray, but I would say fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think I tell, so our organization is fully volunteer run. Nobody gets paid. None of us get paid to do what we do, to help set up the field, to coach, to, send out all the emails, the reminder emails. Nobody gets paid to do any of that. We all do it because we all have either the spirit of volunteerism in us, or we want to do it for our kids, or we want to do it for the community, right? Everybody has their own reasons. And so I think, for us, I like to tell my volunteers that our league is actually, we're and knock on wood, we've been very lucky that it has been very low drama. And I think the reason is also because I like to think, and I don't know if anybody out there who sees this can tell me otherwise, but I'd like to think that we do try to over communicate as much as possible, that we are here for the kids and to provide the kids a good experience. And to your point, what you said earlier, right? It's not so much about winning the game, it's about building the confidence, building the sportsmanship, teaching them all these lessons that sports teaches them to move on. Are we going to have, the next Ronaldo? Ooh, I don't think so. I love all the kids that we have, for sure. Do I think a lot of them are talented? I think a lot of them are talented, but the likelihood of becoming the next Ronaldo is
Or the
0.001%.
next Messi, or the next Beckham.
Or
I
the
don't,
next
yeah, I
Messi.
just, people be like getting
I'm just,
crazy.
yeah. And so, but parents do have very high expectations of that. And so it's kind of, a little bit of a dance to communicate to parents of, hey, our mission in
And on the
our,
wait, I'm sorry, I want to just say, on the girl side, whether it's the next Brandy Chastain, Alex
yes, thank
Morgan,
you,
like,
Alex Morgan,
yeah,
Foudy, Julie Foudy. Yeah,
yeah.
it's the same thing. It's, we, it is our mission here in our league in Orange that we teach sportsmanship, we teach integrity, we teach, confidence. That is what you get. Is your kid going to win every single game? No. Is your kid going to score every single time? No. That's not what we're selling, though, right? That's not what we are giving you here. When you join us, we're here to teach teach you what the benefits of sports is to kids. So we do have meetings that we hold with parents ahead of the season to really set the expectation of, hey, listen, we're all here as volunteers first and foremost. Can any of us go after somebody who says, I'm done, takes his hat off and walks off the field and say, hey, you can't do that? No, they're volunteers.
Yeah.
Please don't push our volunteers to the point where they don't want to serve their community anymore. That's not cool. Let's not do that. I've had to go up to a few parents and say, hey, come over here. Let's go talk. Let's just go for a walk. Let's go pull them away from the tense kind of where it's, oh, it's the score is 1-1 and we're in the last quarter. And it's like, yeah, that's a super high intense game. I get that. But at the end of the day,
that doesn't mean the parent has to be super high intense.
No. If anything, the parent needs to be beyond mellow and teach their kids how to control their emotions, because the kids really kind of are the only ones allowed to be that intense, because they're the ones running their butts off on the field, right? And try and score that second goal. So then, we win, right?
So
what's
interesting is, and I apologize for cutting off, but I wonder how, like, just as somebody, again, who, especially when I was catching, I would zone out. I would hear other people, but I would zone out my mom. So apparently my mom after the game would be like, did you hear me say this or this? I'm like, nope, I did not hear any of that, because when I was in the game, I was in the game. Like, I was zoned in. Right. And I think what a lot of parents may or may not understand, or a lot of, whether you're parent, grandparent, tío, friend, whatever, is oftentimes, especially if a kid really enjoys doing what they do, they're harder on themselves when they make a mistake than anybody else. Like, I know that for me, like, when I was catching or any position, right? If I had a pass ball, if I just whiffed a play, if I struck, like, I was more mad at myself than anybody else could be at me, especially if the game was on me. But I also I don't know if I was prouder than myself, but I was always more upset with myself. And I found that to be the case with everybody I played with. If we messed up, and you get somebody, an outlier, who's like, I don't care, whatever. But you also have to learn how to shake off the failures to be able to move on, which is something that is I don't think you can do. Also, I wonder, growing up, we didn't have participation trophies. How is that? Like, I feel like it was, you win or you lose, and that's sometimes what happens. That's life. You don't always win. You're not always going to get. So how are you feeling about that these days in regards to, like, do you guys give participation trophies out? I personally don't agree with that, because I think kids need to learn that you're not always a winner. And I think sometimes they take a you can be I'm sorry, I probably said that the wrong way. You can be a winner without having a trophy. You know what I mean? Just getting through the season can make you a winner, but that doesn't mean that your team you don't always come in first place, and you have to learn with that. You're not always going to come away with the trophy. So how does your league deal with that?
Well, I think we have to embrace everybody, which is those that are like diehard soccer fans and their kids are soccer fans, right? We have to embrace those, and we have to embrace those that are like, well, we just want to try it. We just want to see if we like it. My child is, 7 years old, 8 years old, and we just want to see. And so I think, when we have to kind of embrace everybody, we have to please everybody too, as well, a little bit, right? We do hold like tournaments. So we do have this like ranking of, this team beat this team. And so then it gets to the last few, and then they win the regional, playoffs, right? In our lower divisions, which are, what we consider like U8, U6, divisions. We don't have tournaments like that, and we do offer like a little medal, right? Thank you for participating, right? There's no goalies. They don't play with goalies. It's like 4 kids against 4 kids. You
Oh,
know what I
yes,
mean?
I can see those little
So
itty bitty. So for people who don't know, U8, U6 means under 8, under 6. So
yes,
you
thank you.
usually have
Yeah,
the different girl, I get it. I get it, right? So
yeah,
you usually
yeah,
have
yeah.
like you'll see U12, U16, like those mean that the players have to be under like no has to be under 16 to win, or it's like 16 and under, but they
To
can't
put it
be to play on that. Sometimes you get a kid who's really good that will play up a level, but
right.
oftentimes,
That's correct.
that's not something that's happening all the time. But I think also what's happening within rec leagues is clubs, right?
Mm,
Clubs are sweeping up those kids who have potential.
sure.
And there's an additional cost because we already know that there's a cost for rec leagues. And oftentimes they'll work with you. So if you're somebody who does not necessarily have the means to pay all of the fees at one time, oftentimes rec leagues will work with you.
Hmm.
And not to say that club leagues won't, but the cost difference between that. But then also you're having like corporations getting involved in club leagues. And I
Yeah.
think that's really where I feel, do you feel as sad as I do to see kind of like the disintegration almost? I don't know if that's the word I would use, but that's the only word that came to mind of rec leagues because growing up, I was part of the Escondido Girls Softball League, and you had freaking badass players. I mean, like badass players playing in the normal rec league, and I just don't see that happening anymore. How do you compete with that, or do you think that's making a huge impact on rec leagues?
Um, I think, especially here in Southern California, I think it is flooded with club. But I think, I remember there was a mom who came to me last spring and she said, "Why is your league so inexpensive?" Very valid question, right? And I kind of, it took me, okay, so well, tell me, you know, have you been looking like elsewhere, right? And she said, well, I was going to put my daughter in club. Well, they're charging me, $2,100, right? And I'm
For the
like,
season, for one
oh,
season. I'm just telling
and
people if they don't know, like that's for one season. That's not even multiple seasons. That is for one season of play.
right. And I'm like, well, has your daughter played before? Like, what is your daughter's experience with soccer? She's never played soccer before.
Why is she putting her in club?
Why are you? So let's not do that. I said you can choose to go wherever you'd like, obviously. I don't I don't recommend going to club if your daughter has never played soccer before. That's and for me, my issue isn't so much mom thinking that, right? It's not so much my issue. My issue is that unfortunately there are not all clubs are the same, but unfortunately there are clubs that will say, "Oh yeah, sure, come on."
Oh, that's so irritating.
And it's like, whoa, you guys, like that's just a money grab. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying all clubs are like that. I'm not saying that. However, I'm saying there are clubs out there that will just take it. Will just take your money. And it's just not a really good learning environment either, because a lot of the times they end up sitting on a bench because they're not the best player.
Yeah.
And so then they don't get play time. And that's the difference in our league. All of our kids have to have 75% playtime, every single one of them.
So
So,
let me just like for those who don't have kids that are in sports or thinking of getting their kids in sport, rec leagues are amazing to start out.
mhm,
And if you see, like, if it becomes a point where your child is like, wait, not just love it, but they want to not only play high school, but they're like, I would love to do this forever. And you see that they have an aptitude because a kid might say, I love this, do this forever, but they may not. Like a rec league is really where you're going to learn the fundamentals of any sport, whether it's soccer, baseball, softball, like a club league is truly, I think football is the only one where there's still, I don't even know if I'm sure there's club leagues for football, but I feel like Pop Warner, like those are still
Right.
really big
Baseball.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, versus any other sport. And the same for like cheerleading, but there's club cheerleading, like there's all-star cheerleading programs and everything like that, even beyond. But and I've played club. I played club in softball and when I was in high school, and I've played, but I grew up going to rec. So I get this life. I understand this life.
Right.
But if you have to know when you go into the club version, it's not only just your normal fees, it's
Right.
hotel. You will have to, you probably will end up having to buy more equipment, better equipment. You're going to have to pay for snacks. You're going to have to when you're paying your initial fee, those fees are only going to the tournament. That's tournament and practices. That's basically all. And but if you want to attend, and even if you can't attend and your child is going with somebody else, you're still having to help pay for a hotel for your child, whether you go or your child goes. You're going to have to, you may, and it sometimes happens, so you might have to have an extra batting coach, pitching coach, fielding coach. If you have to have those extra things, those are extra costs as well. Like
a personal trainer.
It's just so crazy what you have to go through. But if you're just doing it, your kid just wants to do it to try out if they like it, or even just to have fun and because there is an added layer of pressure at club play. You are not just going to play for fun. You are going to win. You are going to play. You are going with the intention of winning that tournament. The coaching is more intense. The pressure is more intense. And I think these are things that are not necessarily fully discussed before making that decision. So if your child is like, I just want to play to have fun, they may be really amazing at what they do. But if they're like, I don't want that pressure, just stick to being in, just stick to the rec league, just stick to high school, because obviously the older you get, the more pressure there is anyways. Why are we adding this additional layer of pressure to children? Because even if your kid is in high school, they are still children.
Yes. Right. They have not fully developed their frontal lobe yet. They don't understand how to handle pressure. Some of them end up, making poor decisions because out of pressure. And, teaching them early on how to just play to have fun. Just have fun.
Yeah. And I think that's what the big thing when it comes to girls is, right? Like, why do you not want to play versus boys? Boys, I think you may have a boy and a girl, both are in sports. You still you cannot treat them the same.
No.
As you're going through life, we know you can't treat every child the same. Every child is going to be different and have their own thing. Like for me, I started cheerleading when I was in 3rd grade. I started softball when I was in 5th grade. Then I'm the oldest of 3 girls. Then my sisters followed behind me. But my middle sister was never super into it, like me and my youngest. So my mom would be like, okay, you have to finish the season. If you don't want to cheer anymore, if you don't want to play softball anymore, you don't have to. That's fine, but you got to finish the season. Me and my youngest sister continued. My youngest sister actually continued playing through college. I played just a year of college. But she continued all the way, got a scholarship, everything for playing ball. But I know that, like I said, my parents had to treat us each differently. The reason they put my sisters in those sports is because those are the sports I was playing. And they were like, if we keep them in the same sport, that helps, right? That's
one less drive to another something. Like,
exactly. But they did let each of us make that decision. Although my
Yeah.
mom did try and make that decision for me one time because I was getting hurt all the time because
Um,
I'm not well, and it's not because I was clumsy off the field, let's say that. But it was more that I played hard.
yes.
I gave it I literally left everything out on that
Yeah.
field. So that's
Yeah.
why I would get hurt because I was pushing my body
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far like well one time, let me tell you a story once.
Yes.
Sliding into third base, the base was not put in correctly. So the
Oh
third
no.
baseman is standing on the edge where she's standing where she should be. But it brought the
Uh-huh.
base up just slightly. So I'm sliding into third base and my ankle goes right under the base and I keep going. And
Ugh.
so at that moment, I didn't know, but at that moment, I tore all the ligaments in my ankle. I was catching that game. So I'm like, everybody's like, you okay? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm
We're
okay.
good. We'll keep
We're
going.
good
Yeah.
because your adrenaline is going. You're
Right.
not
Of
feeling
course.
anything. Put
Of
on all
course.
my catcher's gear and I still play. I think there was like two or three more, maybe two more innings. And I
Yeah.
finished the game.
Yep.
Totally don't feel anything. As
Yep.
soon as I took my cleat off, it expand and I was like, oh my gosh, this hurts. And that's when my mom had to take me to the emergency room.
Yeah.
And I found out I had torn all the ligaments in my ankle.
Oh,
And so my mom was like, I'm taking you out of everything you get hurt. Cause I had once I was cheering and I did a toe touch and I came down on my ankle and fractured my ankle. Before a softball game, you hit the ball into the fence. One accidentally hit the pole, ricocheted off the pole, hit me in the forehead. I had a concussion.
yeah.
Had to go. They
Oh,
wouldn't let me play. I was so mad because I was supposed to catch that game. And they're like, no,
yeah.
you got hit in the head. You have to go to the hospital. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. Like, again, I loved playing. I'm
Yeah.
very competitive with things that
Yeah.
I love, right? And it's okay to be like, but I also had to learn like that for me. That also had to teach me, like, you also have to learn when to take care of yourself.
Correct. Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
and and it's okay to accept other people saying you need to take care of yourself, right?
Right.
Because I'm always of the mindset I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, but it really has helped me going, okay, wait, I say I'm fine, but am I really fine? Like, have I pushed myself too hard?
Yeah.
And I think there's so many benefits to playing in youth like that you get from youth sports that you don't sometimes even realize until you get older, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because you're just a kid having fun, which is amazing, is what you should do. But
Right.
as somebody in positions of authority, whether you're a coach, a parent, a guardian, a tia, tío, grandparent, friend, whatever,
Right.
the kids are learning how to deal with mistakes. If they make a mistake on the field, they're learning how to deal with it. And we have to be able to let them do that. And if you
Right.
have conversations with them afterwards, it's okay to say, so how do you feel about that play? How do you feel about what happened? What do you
Right.
think you could have done better? Because that also gives them the opportunity to think of what
Right.
happened. So, like, girl, I'm telling you, when you said you
You
want to
need to
talk
be a
about youth
coach.
sports,
That's it. You need to be a coach. You have to be a coach. Come over and coach for us here. Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
talk
No,
about youth
you
sports, I'm so like when I am. I love it. I love kids, what I do, and I love what sports can provide. And I also love like the lessons that can be learned.
yes.
But as adults, when we're in this position as adults, we have to be able to learn how to be able to share that with these kids because
Yeah.
and I had tough coaches and I had some easy coaches. And every child has their own way. Like as an adult, it is your responsibility to be able to change the way you talk to each
Okay.
child. You cannot ask each child to adapt
Right.
to the way you're coaching. You have to adapt your coaching to each child. And that's something that we
1,000%.
have to be able to know as adults as well.
1,000%, that you hit the nail on the head. And I think that goes, of course, to the coach, but it goes to the assistant coach, team manager, it goes to the sideline. Everybody needs to refocus on what the child is gaining out of this experience rather than what we are feeling for it, right? But at the same time, I will say, and I think we mentioned this earlier, in I've had the privilege to see even adults thrive in this environment, where I've seen coaches who have like they don't want to, but then they're like, no, but I want to. And so I just have to kind of be like, okay, I don't make this decision for you, but if you want to join us, we are here to help you. We'll lock arms with you and we'll do this together. And I've seen adults really blossom by coaching, where they've learned so many things about their own child or themselves that they wouldn't have if they didn't step into a role of volunteering and coaching a kid, 10 kids from, downtown Santa Ana, right? Like
Yeah.
when they do that, and it gives back so much more than what they give, right? Like you just get so much more back from volunteering. And so I always try to, I know people are like, oh, volunteering, and it's like, no, 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 you don't get it. You haven't done it. Because when you do it, you actually do learn so much about yourself. You do feel really good about yourself, and it does make you think and wonder, and kind of takes you out of your comfort zone of what you're used to seeing, and gives you that other perspective of, hey, all these coaches are volunteers. They
Yeah.
don't have to be here. They can walk off right now. Nobody's going to say anything to them because they don't have to do it. And,
That's why we need to
so
be respectful of the coaches as well, of anybody who's
correct.
volunteering, because most of the time they are. I mean,
Referees.
unless they're even or unless this is changed, I don't know. So if somebody knows this or not, most of the time, even um club coaches are volunteering. They're not
Mhm.
they like your fee. Sometimes they might get a stipend or something like that, but
Sure,
oftentimes
but it's not a
they
living
have
wage
jobs. They
in
have
2026.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not they
Right.
have regular jobs and they are
Right.
volunteering. I do also want to make sure that I mention, because we did talk about the costs and how high the costs are. I would definitely say reach out to whatever, like lot of clubs have like payment plans, you like
Yeah.
dates and stuff. You would contact them, but also when it comes to equipment, you have you know, Played Against Sports is a really great place to start, especially if your kid is brand new to sports
Mhm.
and you don't want, girl, let me tell you, and this was in 93 when my mom got me a brand new catcher's mitt, and it was like almost $200 in
Yeah,
93,
I
right?
know.
That my
I
parents
know.
spent all this money, like a new bat, and I did want them to get me catchers, my own catchers gear. They were going to, and they didn't end up doing it, but like those things add up. I
Yeah.
understand they add up so quickly, but there are other avenues that you can go to, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
no joke. If so, I would say even for if you're playing softball or baseball, there are specific mitts for softball and baseball because
Mhm.
there are different size balls. However, if you get a brand, I would opt for a used glove because it's very
Yeah.
hard to break in a baseball mitt. Let me just say, like breaking in a baseball mitt is or a softball mitt, it is like a day's weeks type of journey. They're very expensive. If you can find something that's already broken in, I would say do that, as and if you get to a point where you can afford something brand new, then that's fine. But there's options, there's people you can reach out to, there's things, but I want
Yeah.
to make sure that
There's nonprofits that help for sure.
yeah, I want to make sure as we close everything out, Perla, that if there's anything else, like I just love this subject. As you could tell, I love this subject. So I've been like
We should do it
sharing
again.
so much of my experience because that's the world I grew up in and I absolutely
Yeah.
love. So if there's anything else that you want to add that we didn't touch on or anything else when it comes to youth sports and particularly youth sports for girls, please like the floor is yours, mujer.
Oof. I mean, I think if anything is just encourage your girls and your children to just play and just have fun, and don't let money be the barrier. There are programs out there. Our program, we offer scholarships, we offer payment plans. Soccer is one of the least expensive sports out there. You need a ball, you need shin guards, you're good after that. And so I think it's a
And
matter of,
cleats, right?
and cleats, right. But even our program, we offer some of that. We have, the recycling programs that we run. But yeah, I think just reach out. I think it does amazing things for kids and their self-esteem, boys and girls. I think, it's just helpful in everything. And like I said, my kids, we call each other, we're all outdoor kids. We're not indoor kids. And so we try to keep it that way in everything that we do. So whatever it is, whether it's softball, baseball, karate, just do something, and just do something for your whole body and your soul. That's what's going to be helpful for them when they grow up.
Yeah, if you want to get your kids off of, screen time, get them into something active, right?
Yes, yes. And if you're in and around Orange, it's, AYSO 1335.org. So make sure you come and take a look and join. It's a lot of fun. And the kids just flourish at the end of the season. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're all here. And we're all here to help.
And speaking of reaching out, if you want to reach out to Perla, you can reach her on Instagram at b.serve.grow. And then the Orange Rec League is for the soccer is at orange.ayso. And we'll have the links in the show notes as well. Perla, thank you so much. I
So much fun.
obviously
I
you could tell
love
I had a
it.
good time talking about this subject. It's like I can't I've said it I don't know how many times already, but this is something that is very near and dear to my heart.
I love
And
it.
now you're making me go, oh, I want to go coach softball. I need to coach cheer now. Like you're making me be like, I need to go do something else
Do it.
now.
Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
But until next time, mi gente.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.